podcast starts now. Hello, all, and welcome to StraightioLab. We are coming at you bi-coastally per usual, and it's just me and George today.
Just us.
What's up?
You know, we're doing a call-in show, which we normally do for Patreon, and so in my mind, I'm ready to spill all the tea. I'm ready to talk to the Patreonistas like they are my family. I'm ready to be like, do you know what happened the other day? Do you know that girl? She was being so weird to me. But I have to remember that, you know, I have to put up my put on my professional mask. I have to take off my jester mask that I wear for Patreon, put on my professional mask, my blazer, my tie, my Brooks Brothers crisp, non-iron white shirt that I got. It's three for $3.75. And I have to get into the office. I'm on the subway. I'm getting off at Penn Station. I'm crossing the street, almost getting hit by a taxi cab, a la opening montage of Devil Wears Prada, so I can get into the studio and report the news, quite frankly.
When I'm doing a regular episode, I feel like I'm the president of the United States.
Giving a press conference.
I feel like I'm giving a press conference. Everyone's going to be picking apart every single word. There's going to be multiple debates about like what I really meant by certain phrases. Mm-hmm. And the pressure is on in a huge way.
Whereas when we're recording Patreon, it is Madonna in the Truth or Dare documentary simulating a blowjob with a water bottle. That is what Patreon episodes are. And listen, if you know, you know.
If you know, you know. Can we talk about how Madonna's like whole thing is like, I'm going to simulate sex. Like she found that out one time and she was like, I'm never going to stop simulating sex. I'm fucking crazy. I'm Madonna.
I'm never going to stop simulating sex. I'm never going to stop referencing Catholicism.
Okay.
All right.
This is an interesting timing episode.
It's interesting timing. Sam, how are you feeling?
I'm feeling mixed. So we found out this week that the show I write for, After Midnight on CBS, is being canceled. So it was a weird week, a very weird week. And it's mostly a bummer. It's hard to talk about, but it's a big bummer because, like, I do feel like the show, the group of writers was so fun. Mm-hmm. And, like, to get a space to actually do like fun, silly, weird alt comedy and have it be like through the CBS lens was like kind of crazy. And I'm like feeling a little bit like, damn, is this ever going to happen again? I even feel like, I don't know, like the working for head writer Joe Firestone is the privilege of a lifetime. And it is like, it's a bummer.
Yeah.
It's because I'm like, no one knows what's next. It's just a bummer, and like they're not even they're just getting rid of the time slot now. Like they're not even going to put a new show in. Like,
oh, they aren't. I didn't know if that was decided. So does that mean there's going to be like a rerun of something?
There's going to be like infomercials. Like
what?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm logging in and buying a treadmill.
It's like fully like local affiliates, and
whoa,
they're just getting rid of the 12:30 slot.
Well, I just want to say everyone involved in that show truly did the impossible, which is take a late night show on network television that is a reboot of a previous show that was very of its time. Let's face it. Very of its time. It's very difficult to reboot something like that and make it relevant again. Launched a new show in the midst of sort of like an uninspiring late night ecosystem, and did it without like huge big name A-list celebrities, without gimmicks where Sydney Sweeney is lip syncing to Chapel Roan, and really like in a very kind of like throwback way enlisted real comedians and a mix of up-and-comers and big names, and actually like made a funny show that was funny from the beginning.
Yeah. It's there's just like not outlets for comedians to do this type of thing.
So I was saying before we started recording that this conversation is giving me such intense deja vu of when we recorded our Patreon app after Gawker shut down. So for anyone, I can't remember how much of this was talked about on a main episode versus Patreon, but from like 2021 to 2023, I guess, was an editor at the reboot of Gawker that relaunched under new ownership, and then it was shut down 2 years later. And it's occurring to me, think of the parallels.
The time frame, the reboot,
the time frame, exact same time frame, it was a reboot of something that was popular in like the 2000s and early 2010s. Mm-hmm. It was a job that was unlike any other job that existed in that industry. It's like there's no other late night show that does what the sort of like alt comedy thing that After Midnight did, and there's no other like website that had the like sort of like funky sensibility that Gawker did.
Yeah.
It's not like either of us could then be like, okay, great, so I'll just go to this other similar place. Both sort of like women boss head writers that we became good friends with. Like very sort of like tight-knit group of coworkers.
Yeah, there are a lot of similarities.
Probably similar size staff. Like and especially the time frame too. It's like it was basically like between 1.5 years and 2 years for both of them.
Yeah. Industries
that are in crisis.
To say the least.
Like this sort of halfway point between, I mean, not to invoke the word journalism, but I just mean like it's like funny news commentary.
Yeah, it's funny news commentary
of the type that more and more is being replaced by TikTok and by influencers and whatever else. And listen, the world goes on. I'm not saying that I think we should freeze the state of culture in 2013 and not allow people to innovate, but it's just a bygone era.
It's a bygone era. It even like it's so I don't know, like even little stuff like just like going to the Paramount lot is like, well, this is fun, kind of.
Totally.
Like, what do you mean I'm not allowed to come here anymore?
Something people don't talk about is how when a job ends, you stop being a human person in the eyes of the entity that once gave you that job. Like,
it's really weird.
It just is. Your badge stops working, and you no longer. If you like, open the door and go in, you will be arrested. Like, you are no longer seen as a person in the eyes of the Paramount law.
It's so weird too. This is weird because we know now the show is not coming back, and yet the show is going till mid-June. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, what is the vibe going to be? Like,
I sort of think that it'll be fun. Like, there's going to be this sort of, it's going to be over soon anyway, so why not like take risks? Why not throw stuff at the wall?
That's the hope. I mean, the classic is the Conan like last week or whatever, when he just like spent as much money as he possibly could. There's like something to go in wild, to go in buck wild. And I'm gonna miss the Paramount lot gym. It's frozen in 1995 in a way that it literally should be a historic site.
I didn't know you went to the gym in the Paramount lot.
Oh, of course. Well, yes. me and Jason Ritter.
Oh my God! We've talked about Jason Ritter, but I once saw him at a bar in Los Angeles, at where Rachel Pegram hosts her show. What's that place called?
Oh, Covell.
That man, handsome and sweet. Now that is a cutie right there.
Cutie pie, sweetie pie,
kind eyes.
He's got it all. Oh,
perfect. Sorry, body.
Boyish face.
Gorgeous, smart, talented wife.
Yes.
Beautiful marriage. Is able to sort of like be publicly romantic in a way that isn't cringy.
Mm-hmm. Man of the people goes to the Paramount Lot gym. When he could go to Equinox.
Oh, I just know his ass voted for Bernie Sanders.
If you doubted that for even 1 second,
are you kidding me?
You'd be a fool. Yeah, no, I'm addicted to him. I'm trying to think. Oh yeah, the other thing about losing the job now is that like the one big difference between where the parallels stop is that I moved to LA for it.
That's true.
And I'm sort of like, wait, what? Like I'm like having to like reckon with like, do I stay here? Do I leave? Like I'm like so confused.
People keep texting me, is Sam moving back? And I'm like, I'm giving him 3 days and then I'm asking. I very intentionally have not asked you, like, when you told me that this was happening, I didn't immediately respond, like, sorry, you moving back?
It's really a confusing thing because there's so much of LA that I feel like one, it was like a lot of work to get settled here and to like figure everything out.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, there is more to glean from this town, but also like I love New York, but it's really complicated.
I mean, there's also something about moving to LA. And by the way, for people who don't listen to the Patreon, a good 70% of it is New York versus LA, so buckle in, bitch.
Bitch. I mean, this whole podcast that's what it's about.
That's what it's about. So there is something about moving to LA that feels like graduating, like New York is college and LA is your first job.
Totally.
And so it's a very common story that, you know, someone in our circle moves to LA for a job and then the job inevitably ends and they stay there.
Yeah.
And so I would understand if you wanted to stay. It's complicated because, I mean, we'll talk about LA a little bit in a bit because there's a question about, you know, the sort of dreamscape of Los Angeles, California at this particular moment. But it is in such a weird place. The vibes are off in such a way that I can imagine it would be especially not enjoyable to be unemployed there, even if it was for a short amount of time. Like there's something about being aimless in LA that is less romantic than being aimless in New York.
Yeah. I'm like curious to see how that feels, to be honest. Because even when we have hiatuses, I'm like either flying to New York or doing, it's like feels busy.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I want to know what that darkness I felt in New York when I'm like, okay, it's Tuesday and I haven't had a job in 3 months. Like, what am I doing today? That's what I'm like wondering if it feels more hopeless or more hopeful here. But my lease is till August, I think the end of August. So at least I'll have
you'll definitely be there through
time to reflect.
Well, pour one out. If you're listening to this, even if it's 9 a.m., pour one out for after midnight. And I just want to say thank you to CBS for giving alt comedians opportunities, even if it was limited. And even if you couldn't find someone to take over the show out of the various people that could potentially do it. Anyway, should we take our first call?
Let's take our first call.
Okay. All right.
Hi, George and Sam. I'm calling because I am currently attending library school in Los Angeles, California, and I have converted several other members of my cohort into StraightioLab listeners.
Thank you.
And we were wondering, we're all queer women, we were wondering where on the range of gay to straight, the different types of librarian information sciences people lie. So that's public librarians, academic librarians, archivists, media archivists, because it's kind of different. Yeah. Oh, and rare books people. Yeah. Okay, thanks. Love you guys.
Okay, literally perfect call. So I'm just going to list them again.
Thank you.
Public librarian, academic librarian, archivist, media archivist, rare books people.
Damn, this is hard. First of all, I want to say it's funny to attend library school. I understand.
First of all, I love one of my favorite phrases, the information sciences.
Information sciences, library school. That's very Dr. Hospital. I go to library school.
It is one of the most iconic things you can do is go to library school. I'm always so obsessed with people that have a master's in information science. And the idea that there is a group of queer women all in library school that listen to StraightioLab and potentially have a group chat about it where they're like, what they said is so rare books coded. It fills my heart with so much joy. And I just want to tell you on this Friday, March 28th, when we're recording this, that you are a star.
You are a star. We appreciate you. And you fill my mind with wonder. You forget that people can go to library school and be a group of queer women in library school. I feel like when you say that, I feel like I'm like literally reading Harry Potter. Like I'm like, there's magic in the world.
No, it is. It's literally, it actually brings me hope that there is, as I'm doing whatever I'm doing here and having my protein bar and a seltzer, there is an alternate universe where there is literally a group of queer women that are learning so much every day about information science, about rare books, about media archiving, and at least at the end of the day, we have that.
Damn, I bet their clothing swap goes crazy.
Oh my God. All right. Public librarian, academic librarian, archivist, media archivist, rare book. Okay. Off the bat, media archivist is the gayest one.
Really?
No?
Well, I'm tell me your reasoning. I was thinking public librarian.
Oh, you're right. Okay. Maybe. Well, okay. Here's the thing, though.
Because they're lepers in society.
Public librarian obviously is the most kind of politically radical, yes, obviously. However, think about the archetype of a public librarian. It is, kind of like older lady, long skirt, funky wood-based jewelry, like a little vest that has an apple with a worm coming out of it.
Yeah.
And as much as, to be clear, I would die for her, she is straight rather than gay.
That's true. If I were in the library and I were looking for a gay book, I would sort of be like I would almost be like, well, it's for school.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's like, there's also something about the public librarian being the archetypal librarian, aka the default, which makes it inherently
the norm.
In the framework of gay versus straight. That is the norm. Doesn't mean she's bad.
No,
she's the norm.
I'm sure she has amazing center-left politics.
Totally.
Damn. Okay. I like that. So she's the straightest.
I almost think she's the straightest. Yeah, I almost think she's the straightest. I think
the librarian scale is hard because it starts at such a queer place.
I know. And I'm now actually thinking maybe Rare Books is the most queer. I mean, come on, Rare.
Well, it's pretentious.
It's also like knowing the B-sides.
It's also like putting value in something. Like you're like creating like wealth within something that shouldn't have it.
Totally. Okay, so here's my ranking. From gay to straight. Rare Books, media archivist, academic librarian, archivist, public. Because I'm like, if there's media archivist, then if you're an archivist, you're being exclusionary. There's the option for media archivist and you're just an archivist? Are you kidding me?
So wait.
Rare Books.
Say Rare Books is gayest.
Yes. Media archivist.
Media archivist is next gayest.
Because media archivist is literally you have an Instagram account. Media archivist is you have an Instagram account dedicated to like Issey Miyake fashion photo shoots from the 90s.
You're literally showing Julia Roberts and you're like, she tore with this.
Exactly. then we have academic librarian, because to me it's like, and which is right down the middle. And to me, that is so bisexual. An academic librarian, she's into Foucault.
I'm seeing like the frame glasses. Like I'm seeing the little frames.
Or even like a woman with spiked hair.
Yeah, totally.
And then I have archivist.
Archivist is just like, put away your clothes.
Yeah. It's kind of
something about archivist.
It's very like being interested in history in a really earnest way without wink.
Yeah. I'm an archivist.
And then I think straightest is public librarian, just because again, that's the archetypal librarian.
I think that's so genius. I think you really nailed that.
Thank you.
And I don't disagree with any of them. And I'm glad we had a discussion, because at first I needed some convincing, but you're totally right.
God, to be a librarian.
I literally like, there's so many jobs.
No, that's tea.
There's so many jobs where you're like, damn, like you can really just do that.
Okay, next call.
And I'm calling back. It's the girl who wants to talk about sexless LA. Sorry, I'll wrap it up. I just wanted you guys to expand on that if you found it intriguing to do so on the sexless nature of LA. And one, I just find it interesting. And two, I literally have not wanted to have sex since the day I got here 5 years ago. And I was in a relationship when I got here, so that was a problem. And now I'm newly single and I am not inspired, to go out there and pursue. So, looking to jumpstart, and just want to know what your thoughts are. overall. Okay, thanks. Bye.
I do just want to say this is the second part of this caller's call, but the first part is there's no way around it, 3 minutes long. So I'm playing this as a tribute to her. And the main gist of it is that she wants us to talk a little bit more about how LA is sexless. And Sam, you had something you wanted to share.
I had something I wanted to share, which I'm not sure if I have said this before. You're allowed to punch me in the face if you see me.
Yeah, as if he hasn't been through enough this week, folks. Lose his job now. Listeners are going to be chasing him, trying to punch him in the face.
In trying to like LA, I was reading Joan Didion's The White Album, and there's an essay in it about LA that was written in like the 70s, and she's talking about how there's all this stuff that feels very relevant where it's about like the town, the industry is failing. The industry as we know it is gone. And it's funny because that's like 1973 that she's saying this, that everyone in town is saying it. So it's just sort of an always, that feeling always there. But then she talks about how it's at its core a gambling town where you're always like gambling on ideas and trying to get rich quick. And because like all gambling towns, it is sexless. And it's like due to its gambling nature that people are not horny for sex, they're horny for like money and success. Which I thought was cool.
Yeah.
It really put it in perspective for me.
I wonder if the gambling thing also erodes a sense of trust almost. Like there's just a general suspicion that exists in the air.
I think there's a suspicion. I think there's like you're always sort of plotting. You're like, well, when's my next paycheck? Like, well, what will this get me in the long run? In a way that's like, you shouldn't be thinking like that. You should be thinking about people's beautiful bodies.
Totally. Yeah. You need a baseline of comfort so that you can wake up and be horny.
Yeah. And I even think you would think that people would be like, well, I'll sleep my way to the top or something like that. But it's like, doesn't work. People have learned that it's better to withhold and make people want you than to like give it up. Which is so disgusting. I find, for me, a big part of the sexlessness also is the car, because in New York, you walk around, you see people, and you just inherently are like, as a person, you're like, that's hot. That person's hot. Or like, that person's serving. Or like, there's like a sexuality of just seeing people all day. And when you are in a car, you're like, you are literally just like less turned on. You just like aren't seeing people in the same capacity.
Yeah, no, it's really true. There's also, okay, I'm trying to say this without misspeaking, but it's like the depictions of sex within, like the idea of the casting couch, is there anything less erotic than that? Like you are literally imagine the most kind of like dumpy room you've ever seen. It's like like a conference room with overhead lighting basically, and then someone is attempting to infuse sex into that. It's like there's in New York, an inappropriate sexual relationship is like you're in the boardroom and everyone is in blazers and both people are powerful and they're just like so powerful that they have to fuck.
Yeah. And they're like, what's this going to do to the firm?
Yeah.
And it's like, fuck the firm.
Fuck the firm.
Yeah. And I feel like, sex is so entwined with like power here that it's not fun, because you're always thinking like, is this, because even if you're not coworkers, you're like, well, I could be like, I could be coworkers with essentially anyone on the street right now. And so it's like, well, I can't fuck them because I will have fucked my coworker. It's very weird.
Yeah. It's also, it's interesting the way sex is by default commodified in Los Angeles and in Hollywood inherently de-eroticizes it. Yeah. It's like, oh, so you're looking at a naked man or woman or person? That's not sexy. That's a billboard. That's a movie trailer.
That's a movie trailer. You're looking at Chris Pratt.
Yeah.
And you're trying to be turned on?
Yeah, no, that's not what this is about. This is about dollar signs.
Malma. I can feel it happening to me.
Really?
I can feel myself being less horny. Yeah.
Yeah.
And in a way that's like, I almost have to remind myself, like, don't forget who you are. You're the guy that sexualizes everything.
Totally.
You're the guy that thinks everything's hot.
That's like how that happened to me after I got married, where I only wanted to have sex with my husband, and I had to remind myself, you're gay. Get out there and find other men.
You stupid bitch.
All right. Next call.
Hey, George and Sam. This is Isle in Brooklyn. And I'm calling. Someone asked me this question a few months ago, and I think about it all the time. So I wanted to see what your take on it was. Pretty simple question. What is the most expensive emotion? And what is the cheapest? All right. Bye.
Love that. Past guest Isle.
Shout out to Isle. What do you think?
So we talked briefly about this. First thing that came to mind is that love is the most expensive, horny is the cheapest.
Yeah. I mean, we both independently came up with love is the most expensive. It is, potentially an obvious answer, but of course, love makes you act in irrational ways. Love makes you sacrifice things you would not otherwise sacrifice. Love is not transactional. Love can be unconditional. All these things are going to absolutely rob you of your money, dignity, and integrity on a day-to-day basis. So watch out.
And I would know. Yeah. Love is the album and horny is the single.
Yeah. Here's another expensive emotion.
Yeah.
I think maybe like resentment gnaws at you so much. You know what resentment is? It's like you think it's fast fashion. Like you think it's an easy thing, but then it's actually full of microplastics and it's slowly killing you.
Wow,
and the environment.
I actually really like that. I like that I think you're taking this question in a different direction than I did, but in a way that I really enjoy. Like you're thinking literally like the cost of having this emotion.
Yeah. Whereas you're thinking love is so
I think it's like rich,
unreachable that it would take so much to get to love. Yeah. I see what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly.
Whereas horny is more simple. Yeah, I think that makes sense. I'm trying to think of other cheap emotions.
I had a cheap one that I go back and forth on. Okay, okay. Nostalgia.
Ooh,
I think like
you're so
when
right.
You get like a burst of nostalgia. I think that's a cheap emotion. But okay, when it's nostalgia from smell or taste, I think that's rich. I think that's expensive.
Oh, interesting.
When you like smell something and you're like, whoa, and you're like taken back, that can be kind of crazy because that's like time travel. But when you're just like, God, I love the 90s, like let's watch, The Simpsons, then it's a little like, okay, stop.
Yeah, maybe it's the more personal to you.
Commodified.
Yeah, like the more personal to you it is, the more sophisticated it is, and the more relatable words that are like, never forget 9/11. It's like, yeah, we know.
Honey, you wouldn't let me forget it if I tried.
Yeah, I didn't. Yeah, no one's going to try. Don't worry. We remember.
We remember.
Of course, to me, a big open question here is where does hate fit into it? And to expand on that, different forms of hate, like, sort of like low-level snark or criticism. I mean, criticism is not an emotion, but like, sort of like disgust. Like, where do those kinds of like toxic negative emotions fit into it? Because on the one hand, they are easy to go to as a default.
Mm-hmm.
It's you see something you don't like, immediately you recoil. On the other hand, of course, if you are filled with hate, that's going to take a toll.
Well, that's what I thought your resentment thing was very smart, where I do think hate is similar, where it's like, it actually does cost the most. Like, like I think hate maybe is even more expensive than love because it like could ruin you.
Right. And maybe disgust is more cheap because it's just like, ugh. And then, you move on.
Yeah.
Okay.
You ever see people that get like really lost in resentment and you're like,
yeah,
oh God.
Well, this is something I've been thinking a lot about because I think the 30s are the resentment decade. Well, I guess what it is resentment builds in your 30s. Either it solidifies into you just being a miserable person, or you battle it and come out of the other side and you are satisfied and comfortable with who you are.
Yeah, and you put that live, laugh, love poster up and you say, c'est la vie.
Exactly. And by the way, this has nothing to do with your level of success, your attractiveness. People can be the president of the United States and be filled with resentment, and people can be, a random person who is, does customer service at Cigna, and they can be full of love.
I loved watching that because I was like, how's he going to land this? I was like, what is the appropriate random person? And you really nailed that.
I think I nailed it.
Yeah.
So, but I do think, yeah, and maybe it's even like more 35 to 45 or something. It's not exactly 30s, but do you know what I mean?
I do.
It's the time when
push it slightly, only because I don't want to poke holes in your theory. I mostly like it, and this podcast is about agreeing.
Of course.
But I'm just, from personal experience, I feel like I knew people that were so much more resentful in their 20s.
Really?
Because they were like, it was like stand up, and it was like everyone had this idea of like trying to make it before 30 or something.
I see.
Which is a false premise, obviously.
Yeah.
And you kind of have to turn 30 to realize that. But a lot of people, I could feel like in late 20s, people like clawing and being so upset and so jealous and so angry. And then in your 30s, it's almost like the last scene in Mean Girls where all the girls are like, actually, we like each other and we don't really care that much. So I think it depends.
Either way, resentment, it's like you got to move past it.
You got to move past it.
If you're feeling resentful, this is a wake-up call.
Literally.
It's not it's not good. It's not sustainable. It will not give you anything you are looking for. You have to move past it.
You have to move past it. And you can still be critical.
Yeah.
Oh my God, George and I are such haters.
Oh my God. We hate everything.
But we hate everything with love.
That's right. Okay, next call.
Hi, Sam and George. It's Heidi. This is actually my second time calling. Fun, exciting, love it. I have two questions. I'll just do the first one super, super quick because I thought it would be fun, and it's more so for George. So my family and I are going on a super awesome spring break vacation to Greece, which I'm so pumped about. And I was like, oh, that's fun. It's George's old stomping grounds. So I was like, George, do you have any, recommendations, if you will? We're going to Crete and Athens. So pretty touristy, but very exciting. Yeah, so that's the first question. Thanks, George. And second is for both of you. This is the most important one. So me and my two long-distance besties love this pod. We talk about it quite frequently, and we just really like when you guys are friends. And we like when other people are friends, just like cast members of TV shows. You were big into Broadway, so like Broadway cast. Just like we like when other people hang out and we enjoy it and it's fun. So we wanted to know, since you guys are not only podcast co-workers, but also friends, what do you guys like to do together outside of the pod that feels like different, or, when you just hang out, what do you like to do? Yeah, keep doing what you're doing. We'd love the pod. And by we, I mean me and my friends. Okay, anyway. Love you. Bye.
Shout out.
That was sweet.
That was very sweet. I'm going to do a very, very quick round of like things off the top of my head that I did in Athens last time I was there that might be helpful. So Athens is, I think I've talked about this before, but it has been undergoing this, like, depending on your point of view, Renaissance or gentrification nightmare for the last 5 to 6 years. There was a moment during the financial collapse when, it was, the prevailing idea was that the city was in crisis and it needed to, and new businesses weren't opening and obviously the economy wasn't going well, whatever. And then it became sort of like Berlinified. I've told you about how my grandmother's neighborhood, which was like a middle-class neighborhood, she has a one-bedroom apartment, has now become like the Bushwick of Athens. And she leaves her apartment and it's literally all like expats, people on their laptops, like people wearing sort of like head-to-toe kind of like club clothes. And she's just sort of like, okay, like going to the farmer's market. And so it is... honestly, people ask me all the time for Athens recommendations, and I don't know what to say because it is such a different place than it was when I lived there, when I was also like a teenager. So this latest time, I really tried to get a bunch of recommendations from people because I wanted to know which of these new businesses are worth it. The answer is not all of them, but I did want to shout out this one restaurant called Pharaoh, like an Egyptian pharaoh. I went to. It was so good. It's just like updated Greek classics, but you got to make a reservation ahead of time. Sam, when you visit, we'll go together. I had the absolute time of my life. Great wine list, really good, sort of like shareable small plates. I was in absolute heaven. That entire neighborhood, Exarchias, has become very like Williamsburgified in a way that is honestly pretty alarming, because when I was in high school, that's literally where the anarchists would hang out. And it would be like, that's where all the protests were. That's where a lot of the like sort of like memorable news stories of protesters clashing with the police happened there. And now you go and it's literally like a record store that's run by like a chill guy with a mohawk. And then the people in it are like Italian tourists. It's very strange.
Wow.
But
weird.
But that restaurant, I have to say, if you want to go somewhere that's not a traditional taverna, which you should also go to, and it's something a little more contemporary, I would recommend. Another place, a store I went to is this store called It's a Shirt, and they sell shirts. And it's this like really cool gal whose dad worked in the garment industry in Greece. So then she is like taking sort of like fabrics that, because she, fabrics that her father would use potentially, and making these like super cool, like Japanesey cut, like cool shirts.
Wow.
And they are much cheaper than the equivalent thing would be if you went to like Copenhagen or something.
It's a shirt.
It's a shirt. Shout out to It's a Shirt. And then the final thing I will say is, people don't know this, but one of the best things you can do in Athens and in Greece in general over the summer is go to an open air cinema. So they have these open air cinemas. Imagine like a giant screen with just like, chairs and a little bar and stuff. And the ones in the center of Athens, you can literally look at the Parthenon behind the screen of the movie that you're seeing. So you can go and watch, like, they'll do like a Hitchcock retrospective or something, and you can go watch like a classic movie, and then the Parthenon is right behind that. And oftentimes people will go to Greece, and people I think would be in the know about these kinds of things, and they don't know that that's an option. So that is my big recommendation.
Beautiful recommendations, George.
Those are my three. Thank you. And the second question was, what do we do as friends?
Yeah.
We party, bitch.
Bitch, we party. Bitch, we're out on the town. We
go to Max Whitter's house.
We go to people's houses, or we go to dinner and we get drinks, and potentially, if George isn't tired, we go out.
That's right. Yeah. And you know what I think in my own life has been a change since the pandemic? I used to do more like weekend friend trips.
Oh yeah.
Pre-2020, I was getting like an Airbnb upstate with 4 chicas. That was not something that was out of the ordinary for me.
Really? I didn't start really getting into that lifestyle till after pandemic.
Interesting. I don't know what it is now. I think it's a mix. Obviously, everyone's busier, but also everyone's like taste level has gone up, and suddenly it's not enough to just like go to Airbnb.com and click the first one and just be like, yeah, we'll figure it out. Everyone suddenly wants to make reservations. Everyone wants to have like a specific hike planned, which I get, but it makes things more difficult than when you are, 25 years old and are just like excited to be out of the city.
That was such a scary. There's so many moments in one's life when you realize like there's been growing up, and I always am like the last one to know, and that was a real one when people were like, well, no, I want a nice house.
Yeah.
Like I want a chic house. And I was like, but we're just like sleeping there and listening to music and like having drinks. Like, why does it matter?
Yeah, but you know that if something was below your standards, you would also speak out.
Yeah, my standards were pretty low though. But
don't you think they're higher now? Yeah, I think they're higher now.
They are. I'm learning, but I feel like I'm like sad that I'm learning.
Totally.
Almost, where I'm like,
of course,
like there was a freedom of not caring.
I mean, the threshold to be satisfied is higher. That sucks.
Yeah.
You wake up every day and the default is you're like, okay, someone better impress me today.
Even like caring about one's apartment, like no, as soon as there was like a moment when it was like suddenly we care about our apartments. And I was like, fuck.
I know.
Like, it happened all of a sudden. And it used to just be like, no, it's amazing. I can pay rent. And now it's like, no, you have to have a place that's nice.
I know. And then you wake up one day and you're like, wait, so you've been collecting artisanal knickknacks from your travels since you were 22?
Yeah.
You're not just sort of going to West Elm? That's interesting.
It's interesting. And I'm like, it's fun. I think there's a certain level of like competition can be helpful and motivating, but it's also a little scary. The moment was scary when I was like, oh fuck, I have to catch up.
I know. It's interesting to grow up consuming media about the urban petite bourgeoisie, a la Woody Allen, etc., and have it be so foreign. And then suddenly, whether you like it or not, and honestly, no matter your income level, you sort of just age into having those values.
You best start believing in la petite bourgeoisie.
You're in it.
One.
Okay, next call.
Hey there, calling in for the second time from my Northern New Jersey number. Shout out. I have a really important question. Do you think that with Chapel and all of us knowing what her personality is now, I wanted to see what your thoughts are in the revisitation of the Lizzo's past of it all. Like, is she cool? Is she not? How do we feel? Thanks.
First of all, shout out to Northern New Jersey phone number. I don't know why,
it's
but
because
I love that.
it's the same. I commented that this caller has the same area code that my house did in New Jersey.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Fun. I want to say thank you for bringing back Lizzo's Pass. I've been thinking about it a lot. It was recently mentioned on an episode of Keep It, which I was really excited about.
By Louis Vertel.
Yeah. So for those who don't know, Lizzo's Pass is the moment when a rising pop star gets so big and has to decide, which way to go in Lizzo's Pass. Do you go towards Pitchfork and stay cool forever, or do you go towards Target and make songs for commercials? And I think Chapel is still at Lizzo's Pass. I think she is delaying her decision by releasing singles only. I think we won't know, because I think Good Luck Babe was very, okay, she's going to be Pitchfork. She's like, cool.
Yeah.
Like, this is cool. And then the new one, The Giver, is like, good. I like it. But I'm like, but it could go either way. And I'm like, a little bit, and it's like, I think it's cool. It's like about like, giving an orgasm. That's like fun. But it's still like, I don't know. So I think the album is really we can't call it. It's too early to call. We need a full album before we can say.
Do you think going country is a way to delay Lizzo's Pass?
100%, because you can't
it's both.
Say anything about it. Yeah.
Country is, for the Pitchfork crowd, country is alternative in its own way. And then for the Target crowd, country is like it's for the Target crowd, country is like comforting, but also to be country and alt is scary.
Yeah.
You basically are having your cake and eating it too. It's called the Casey Musgraves effect.
I'm very curious, because at this point she's like trying on all these new sounds and styles where I'm sort of like, okay, what is your sound and style? Like, it almost feels like, look over here, look over here, look over here. And I'm like, wait, I'm surrounded by smoke. I can't tell where you are or what your deal is.
Yeah. Do you think Pink was ever at Lizzo's Pass, or she just started out Target?
I think she started out Target.
So you think even her early R&B hip hop phase was just destined for Target?
It was still on the radio and it was still in the commercials.
Yeah.
I mean, one thing that's happening to Chapel is that she's at Lizzo's Pass, but the wind is blowing really hard and it's like snowing, and it's like forcing her to put like, trying to make her go towards Target.
Really?
Because I really believe, because every song, I'm like more passionate about this than I've ever been about anything in my whole life, because every song is in a commercial now. And I know it's because the brands are like, she's cool enough, but popular enough that we can look cool and in on it. But every commercial has a Chapel song. So the wind and the snow, she's going, I want to go towards Pitchfork. And she's like, but the snow is too high. I have to go towards Target. So I think the odds are against her, but I hope that she can survive Lizzo's Pass.
Yeah. She also hasn't been claimed by either party, because I think at this point the Pitchforkistas are skeptical of her, and certainly the Target moms, candle buyers, are skeptical of her. And so it's like she's on top of the charts, but while balancing on a tiny needle. Like if one thing goes wrong, she could be done forever.
And I also think that's why she's doing the singles thing, to be like sort of soft, change the narrative and like let people be like, okay, I'm calm about her now. Now she can release an album.
She was on Call Her Daddy, another way that you can delay Lizzo's pass.
What is Call Her Daddy's like space in the culture right now?
No one knows.
I'm so deeply confused. And I'm like trying to figure out, even watching the clips of that, I was like, am I insane? Like, it's so bizarre. So that's how I feel about it all. Okay. How do you feel about Chapel at this stage?
No, I think you are absolutely right that she's delaying Lizzo's pass. I have to say I'm pro Chapel. Like I'm just sort of like it, but it took me longer than you to get there. In the beginning, I think because the first song of hers I heard, I pressed play on the album, and the first song was Phenomenon. And honestly, I was like, get this off my screen. I was so upset. People had been telling me to check out Chapel Roan for so long. I pressed play on that song, and I was wrong. I just want to admit I was wrong. But there was something about it that felt so RuPaul that then I had to come back to it a few months later and realize, actually, this is an incredible album, which everyone agrees with. And since then, I've loved her performances. I think she's fun. I think she's a fun figure. I like that she's provocative and controversial. I like that sometimes she's a little embarrassing. She's young. I like that she's speaking her mind. Everyone is so, poll tested these days that I say go off.
I say go off.
I'm trying to think of other people who are at Lizzo's pass right now. I mean, do you think Twigs has... I do think Twigs chose Pitchfork, and that's...
Twigs chose Pitchfork.
Twigs chose Pitchfork.
I think Sabrina Carpenter is Target.
Is Target, yeah, she's Target.
Tate McRae she's sort of at Lizzo's pass, but she's Target.
Because she was never Pitchfork to begin with. No Pitchfork person was on her side.
Yeah.
You know what I noticed, actually?
What?
And it pains me to say this because my dream is for Lucy Dacus to be the special guest at StraightioLab.
Oh my God.
I haven't even told you this. I don't have a contact or anything, but I have this dream that we'll do StraightioLab, and then at the end she comes out and performs I Kissed a Girl.
Lucy, if you hear this, Bell House on April 16th.
And I just want to let you know, Lucy, and this is a true story, I got my husband concert tickets to your show for his birthday. He's a huge fan. We can't wait to see you at Radio City, and hopefully we'll see you at the Bell House. But what I wanted to say is that Lucy Dacus and the Boy Genius Girls were definitely at Lizzo's pass.
Yeah.
And I think Phoebe Bridgers, it's sort of like the jury's out, but something I noticed today is that Pitchfork herself gave Lucy Dacus a 6.1 on her new album.
Which, in a sense, is choosing to go Pitchfork.
Totally.
Like, there's something about that where it's like, okay, you're staying small.
On the other hand, Lindsay and Bobby pointed this out on Who Weekly. There was literally a People magazine exclusive about Lucy Dacus, and I'm like, hold on. A few years ago, we weren't getting People magazine exclusives about members of Boy Genius. So Lucy, I think at any point, and her tour tickets, I got to say, shout out to Live Nation, much more expensive than I thought they would be.
Really?
I thought I could potentially add a few more elements to my birthday gift. So I do think that there's been a breakthrough with Boy Genius, and I think they're much more mainstream than we think. That album did really, really well.
That's true.
So I think if Lucy...
So are you saying...
I'm saying Lucy, I definitely think she's still at the pass, but I think she could snap her damn fingers and go Target at any point.
Interesting.
Because she is relatable in this way. She's fun on video. She's very millennial. She's very does a video for Condé Nast Digital and talks about going to therapy.
What do you think about Haim?
Oh God, that is a really good question.
I kind of think it tastefully as like very successfully, they've still chosen Pitchfork.
I agree. They've definitely still chosen Pitchfork.
and that's cool.
They're A24 basically.
They're A24.
Yeah.
That's literally what they are. Fuck.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Hi, Sam and George. Random, but I'm on a big George Michael kick. So that's huge for me right now. And I just had to know, for you, George, as a gay man of Greek experience, and for you, Sam, as a gay man of not Greek experience, what does George Michael mean to you? What are your favorite songs? Yeah, anything George Michael related. Love ya.
He means everything to me.
Yeah, he's to die for. George, you go first. I mean, he was your post nuptial song
right.
in a fun way, in an amazing way.
I had this idea that I wanted the song when we walked on the aisle, the song was going to be earnest, but then at the end when we kissed, the song was going to be like fun and poppy. And my initial idea, of course, was Madonna's Ray of Light,
which would be iconic.
Which would have been iconic. But we ended up going with George Michael's Freedom. Not the most original choice, but it was like so fun. Everyone got into it.
I'd say it's pretty original, to be honest.
I mean, it's just like, I just mean in terms of his oeuvre, it's like one of his top three songs. But that, and I'll tell you why. And I think I've maybe even said this story on the podcast. I was at this big Pride party last summer. It was all, electronic sort of house music, okay? And no lyrics, no references to any pop music. And then at some point at like 2 a.m., the beat breaks into the chorus of Freedom. And it was this like incredible moment where everyone was it was as though, we had all like taken mushrooms at the same time or something. It was just, like, it was almost like the results of an election had just come in and they were positive. I like cannot, and that really inspired me. I was just like, this song has a power that is unlike other pop music.
Wow. That's amazing.
Of course, it means a lot to me that he's gay and Greek. He's so hot. He's such a sex symbol. It is important to remember that in terms of like our sexual politics and in terms of queer stuff, we're not moving in a straight line. Like to me, George Michael was so much more cool and like fun than so many of the things that are happening now.
I think about the thing all the time where when he was arrested for cruising.
Yeah.
And he was like not ashamed at all. And he's like, "What is my culture?" is like the quote he said. And I was like, that's true. Like, it's so funny the way that when I was younger, I did not understand that. And now I'm like, no, it should be illegal for guys to get arrested for cruising. That's literally what we do. That's like, it's a time-honored tradition. That's sort of our Thanksgiving, if you will.
I will say, as much as I love George Michael, I really only know the hits. I'm not a sort of completist. I'm not listening to albums top to bottom. I, like everyone else, I rediscovered Father Figure because of Baby Girl. I love adding some George Michael to a party playlist, but I'm not, I'm not listening to the B-sides. Do you have favorite songs that are sort of off the beaten path?
Not really. I mean, the hits are hits for a reason. I have listened to, like, what is the one with Father Figure on it? What's it called? Faith? That one's Faith.
Which also has the famous song Faith.
But it has Faith on it. I have that one on vinyl, and I've listened to it a good amount. And it's, there's a lot of like weird shit on there. Like, totally. Which is a fun thing about listening to an album like that. But it's like, it's fun. But yeah, the hits are the hits. Like, you feel it.
Yeah. I mean, he has it.
He has it.
I was George Michael for Halloween, some may recall.
Many are
talking about that. So that's our relationship with George Michael.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Final call.
Oh, and what perfect timing. Such a well-timed episode. Meanwhile, I've never received more texts in my life. Everyone needs to calm down.
Hi, Sam and George. I'm calling in with an advice question. I'm going to a straight wedding in a couple of months. There are going to be very few gay people there, maybe in the single digits, and it's a pretty conservative religious wedding. and I'm going to be in the wedding party. So my question is, what are the gayest things I should do without getting myself kicked out of the family? All right. Love y'all. Thanks. Bye.
Well, this is a perfect call, of course.
Of course.
I think this is such a, time-honored tradition of being the gay guy at a traditional straight wedding. And it's sort of like traveling to like a small town where, yes, you are literally not going to see as many gay people, but it's like but it's also kind of fun because you get to like open up any app you want and see the most random guys on earth. I think I have no greater pleasure than like being in like, random parts of Minnesota and opening up the apps, because it's sort of like a time machine. Like you see people that are like, I'm literally married to a woman, and you're like, that is really amazing.
Yeah, that is so cool.
And I'm like, I didn't know we still had you.
I also am like, take a little thirst trap with your suit in the bathroom, unbutton your fly, get a little pube in there. Take a photo. We're talking directly to close friends. Maybe a little comment that's like, at a religious wedding, LOL.
Send nudes.
The fire emojis are going to start coming at you fast. There is something about being actually far away from the people you are courting or making horny or flirting with that makes it so much more erotic than actually having the opportunity to meet them in person.
This is so true. What a smart thing to say. Because there's no risk. It can just be flirty without any follow through. That's genius.
Actually, one of the worst things that could happen to someone is when you think that's what's happening and then the other person's like, want to come over. And it's like, no.
I know.
I am doing something very specific here. And if you can't tell, like, that's on you.
But I'm such a I'll be right there type bitch.
Oh, really?
I'm ordering the car right now.
It takes a lot to get me out of the house if I don't think that's what's happening with that night.
Well, no, horniness is a disease.
No, it is a disease. I will say, on the other side of things, if I'm out, it's very easy for someone to convince me to stay out. Like, I had an experience recently where I was like, I'm leaving, and ended up going to 3 other locations on a weekday.
Wow, that's awesome. I think also, I think you may be surprised. And I think if there are any other gay people there, I think it could be really, really fun to flirt and even have something happen, because it'll feel so secretive. It'll feel so illegal. And even if they're like not your normal type or whatever, it's like, this is awesome. There's something evil about it.
And also here's one of the gayest things you can do at this wedding. Show up looking absolutely snatched as hell. Get a martini, sit in a corner by yourself, watching everyone kind of judgmentally drinking the martini. You are going to be the talk of the town. People are going to be like, is that Truman Capote?
Literally. And complain about the food.
Oh, yeah. Definitely complain about the food. First of all, when I say order a martini, send it back immediately.
Say, I asked for a dry.
And this glass is not cold. Can you please chill the glass? This is my number. Text me when it's ready. That I would say more so than hooking up with someone, while of course that also sounds like a lovely thing to do. I would say that is the gayest thing you can do at a really straight religious space.
I have to agree. I have to agree. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that's like, like if you can like squeeze in like sort of a half sex story to like someone's grandma, that could be huge too.
Ooh, that's good. Yeah.
Yeah, like even like some innuendo, like if you can be like, no bottoming, no, that's not innuendo. If you can fully be like, no bottoming for me tonight, like to someone's grandma, like
guess what? No bottoming for me tonight because of this dry ass salmon that was served at this stupid ass wedding. The hell? Where was this shipped from? Some landlocked country that doesn't grow its own salmon?
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Kill 2 birds with 1 stone. You tell you're horny, you alienate grandma, and you insult the food.
That's what being LGBTQ plus is all about.
Oh yeah, no, I think you're gonna. And also, I just want to say, there's a temptation when you're in a straight space to be like, I'm not going to care about my appearance. I'm just going to show up and fit in. Resist that temptation.
This is when you want to turn a look.
You want to show these people what their lives are missing.
Yeah. And really, really, you need to serve.
You need to serve,
folks.
I'm deploying you.
You've been drafted.
We're deploying you.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty fun.
Yeah. Those were some fun calls.
Thanks everyone for calling. Sorry if we didn't get to your call.
You can always call us at 385-GAY-GUYS. We should mention this is, in fact, the second part of a 2-part call-in show. The first part was on Patreon only. It's already happened. And honestly, there was a very juicy call on it that I think I would personally pay $5 a month to listen to.
And I think we're gonna, we're sort of doing call-in shows intermittently and at random.
Yeah, whenever we feel like it.
Which I think is so cool.
I agree.
I'm glad we're not scheduled.
I'm also like, are we officially breaking the earnestness, non-earnestness binary?
I think so.
We're being half earnest, half not earnest. At any given point, I could, sling a joke that would be worthy of Anthony Jeselnik, but I could also retreat into a more kind of introverted, vulnerable state and talk about my mother.
I think get you a podcast host who can do both. We contain multitudes now.
That's right.
Outwardly and inwardly.
Now more than ever.
What with everything going on.
So whether you're in library school or celibate in Los Angeles or at a straight wedding offending a grandmother by talking about how you got fisted at the big party,
we love you.
You are always welcome in the lab. And come to StraightioLab on April 16th at the Bell House.
Come to StraightioLab on April 16th. And RIP after midnight.
That's right.
Bye.
Bye.
StraightioLab is a production by Will Ferrell's Big Money Players Network and iHeart Podcasts.
Created and hosted by George Civeris and Sam Taggart.
Executive produced by Will Ferrell, Han Sani, and Olivia Aguilar.
Co-produced by Bei Wang.
Edited and engineered by Adam Avalos.
Artwork by Michael Fales and Matt Grubb.
Theme music by Ben Kling.